Welcome to episode 4 of Non-Mainstream Dad. My name is Morgan Jones. This show is devoted to talking about responsible non-monogamy and alternative sexual lifestyles, mainly. But there will be a little deviance and adventure in our topics, I promise. My plan for this series is to walk through the progression of learning if poly is right for you and or your relationship and the steps and stages you'll go through. We'll discuss some of the considerations, pitfalls, and joys of living life this way. Please like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com /non-mainstreamdad, all one word. And please follow us on Twitter at non-mainstreamdad, all one word, yet again. The name of today's episode is Negotiating Poly in a Relationship. In episode 3, I began by exploring some of the steps, stages, and considerations into making your life a polyamorous lifestyle, whether you're deciding this as a single or a part of an existing relationship. I'll revisit for a moment something incredibly important here. Relationships are about agreements. They're about communicating needs and wants and expectations. They're about informal, verbal, and written contracts and doing what is agreed to or dealing with the agreed to and contract terms not being met and the consequences thereof. First, let me state that expectations are resentments in training. The way to avoid expectations evolving into resentments is to voice them. Unspoken expectations will be rarely met. Also, let me say that it is almost impossible to have a relationship without expectations to some degree. So you need to get it all voiced and out in the open. Now, if you're single and poly, you're probably wondering, how does this apply to you? Actually, as an individual forming relationships with other individuals, you'll end up having to go through this pretty much every time you get involved in a relationship. As a new couple or existing relationship changing to a poly model, you have to address potential issues and possibly build a framework for dealing with issues and concerns that you may each have as you change and build the new relationship model. One of the biggest differences within this model is the need to communicate the structure you are wanting to maintain and build, as theoretically, it's a custom piece of architecture each and every time a new relationship is begun. Let's address altering an existing relationship first before we move on to negotiating a relationship with someone new and who the relationship is beginning as poly. So you've been talking some more. You and your partner are ready to face the possibility of other relationships and attachments forming by outside individuals to each other or each of you inside of your relationship. Now, to make this happen, you each need to talk about your fears and hopes. I'm not saying that you and your partners have to exactly have the exact same vision or idea of how things will work. But you each need to communicate what you think you want and what you want. You need to communicate what you're afraid will happen in your relationship if you continue changing it into the new poly model. What are you hoping will happen? Why are you doing it? Really? What is your motivation? Are you doing it to make your partner happy? Okay, if that's the case, that needs to be communicated clearly, because in that case, you don't communicate it, you're lying to your partner and likely to all of their partners, and there are very few ways it will possibly succeed. And you should communicate that it's likely going to tumble and stumble, be messy, hurtful, and hurt your relationship in ways you cannot believe because you are doing it for them. The key is understanding why each other needs or wants to change your lives to this model and what you will each get from it. From this start, you can begin successfully negotiating the framework you want to build your relationship and life to become. What are you actually negotiating? You're negotiating the things that you or your partner do not feel are acceptable within the structure of your relationship when it comes to adding another individual. I referred to this in an early episode as couples privilege. Yeah, this is a horrible term and concept. However, each relationship kind of ends up with its own privilege or lack thereof, and those are the types of things that sometimes end up deciding just how long relationships last in polyamory. The decision to stay in a relationship or leave a relationship when it comes to poly suffers the exact same lists and litmus tests of any normal relationship, whether it be poly, mono, or whatever. Are the terms of the relationship acceptable by both parties? Are the terms agreed to being met by both parties? Do you feel the terms need to change? It doesn't matter what those terms are as long as they are agreed to openly, honestly, and without hidden motivation. If those things don't exist, you will have a long, hard road. Just saying. The technical and detailed side of the negotiation process results in the establishment of relationship rules and pirate code, or guidelines. We will go deeper into that grease trap in a later episode. Like, next. All the single poly say, ho! I hope you didn't think or get bored thinking that none of this applies to you. All of it applies to you. Each time you start a new relationship, you will have to decide just how deep is it. I'll leave that to potential another episode, but let me say to the single polys that there's an added degree of difficulty to relationships with a bunch of people that may or may not be waiting for you to finally give in and decide you're mono with them. Each relationship with a non-poly person will run that risk as well as there are additional implied constructs of mono relationships if that's how they're approaching yours. There's a huge potential to be hurt, blindsided, and confused when your partner decides they're going to play the them or me card. I'm not saying this doesn't happen with our previous relationships that exist. However, it's something that you kind of must have the awareness that even the most rational and open-minded partner can occasionally be working their way through if they're still okay with you being poly and if they want you over themselves. Here is the key to the situation. You are the only person that will and can decide if you're willing to change what you want for your life for them. Or will you change and they'll get bored since they got what they want and move on? My personal approach is that yes, it can happen, but no, you shouldn't ever change anything about you for anyone other than you. I may be a smidge jaded in this direction, still. So we've got our base relationships kind of decided on, or at least how we want to deal with the structures. Now we actually meet someone that we want to be poly with, and then we have to go through a process of communicating our needs, wants, and the frameship of our existing relationships, and what we want for the new, bright and shiny. It all kind of follows each other along, honestly. There are a few differences between a mono relationship and working within a non-monogamous framework, other than the complications of adding more people when compared to a poly relationship. Poly life makes relationships more complicated, but has the potential for so many more rewards. As I said previously, we'll address the formalities of these negotiations when we get to rules in the next episode. We'll continue in depth with our next episode titled, There Is No Rule Number 6 in Polyamory. And thank you for watching Non-Mainstream Dad. I'm Morgan Jones. Please tune into our next episode, and please subscribe. You can like and follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/non-mainstreamdad, and you can follow us on Twitter at non-mainstreamdad. That way you can get updates, ask questions, and make comments as we take our journey. Please feel free to leave comments or ask questions below, and I'll do my best to respond in the comments, or you may even inspire an episode in response. See you next time.